All right, let's do this. All right. Hello, Mary Jane. How are you?
Hello, Christy.
Oh my gosh, we are here to watch planets with Planet Watch
We are indeed. And
in
we
your
just,
native
we're
sign.
still in the fallout after this wonderful eclipse. It was beautiful here in Europe. I don't know
Yeah.
if you got any repercussions from it, but it was quite a show.
Okay, so tell me more. How did you experience it? Where did you watch it from? What were people
Well,
saying?
I don't go out looking for these things. It was particularly strong and like 99% total, more than that, in the southwest corner of Spain. So, and it was not bad here in Geneva, actually. It was about 92%, but I watched it on television. I don't want to do crowds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Besides, I'm here in town and you've got high buildings all over and lots of light, and it wasn't going to be much of a show. So I didn't bother going outside, but it was kind of neat actually because the TV producers and the operators went around all over Europe where this thing was showing up. And so we got to see at different times, different exposures. And it was kind of neat. It was like four or five eclipses going on at once. But yeah, it was beautiful, I guess. The photos, in any case, were spectacular.
Oh, I can imagine. Did people turn out for this? Did people come in from
Oh
different?
Lord. Yeah, they were everywhere. A lot of people went to Spain to see this thing. I guess they were from all over the world, in fact. But yeah, up on the hills, up in the higher places here in Switzerland were very popular, of course. Oh yeah, there were thousands of people out with their telescopes and their special cameras and so on and so forth. And oh yeah, they're very astronomy minded around here. So it was, yeah, it was a good show for everyone. I
Oh,
had
yeah.
seen one. I had seen one in 1999
Yes.
was the last time here in Europe, and it was pretty exciting because it was at noon as well. So we
Oh,
got the full effect of the shadow effect was just amazing. It got very dark and no birds, no anything going on at noon. And then 20 minutes later we kind of get back into something like noon. And it was pretty special.
wow. The eclipses are amazing. And last night I had a dream of a total eclipse.
How did you? Wow.
That I was in some sort of neighborhood making a delivery or something. I don't know what. And it started getting dark. And I said, oh, yeah, there's an eclipse, and lay down in the street.
Uh,
Nobody would hit me and watch
right.
the eclipse happen. It was interesting to dream about that so randomly.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. That's got to rhyme with something going on in your life. I don't
I
know what.
know. Yeah, I need to Google that. And then, of course, we had a total eclipse here in America in 2024, April 2024. So,
Right, right. I remember that. I
yeah.
remember
So
that.
you guys got yours as well. What time was the eclipse there?
It was in our neighborhood. It was at 8:30 at night. So the sun was very close to the horizon, the western horizon,
Hmm.
which I guess was kind of special too. I had trouble even understanding how I guess it just made it dark faster. And in fact, you had the feeling that the sun was setting twice, which can be pretty exciting too, I suppose, if you're into that.
Wow. Wow. I mean, here in the United States, of course, people had Eclipse memorial t-shirts, and the post office made stamps that were the eclipse, but you put your thumb over it or something over it to warm it up, and then it would show a different view of the eclipse. So I've got a sheet of those as memorabilia.
Oh
There
my
was
God.
a book. I remember going to a lecture at the library about the American eclipse, and this man
Uh-huh.
had written a book about eclipses in America throughout the centuries. It
Yeah.
was, we just really did it up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Did everybody celebrate it as much there?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's always a bit lower key here than the American festival phenomena. But yeah, it was exciting news. There was a lot of talk before and after, and mostly on a more scientific level, though. There was a lot of explaining what the eclipse is, what the phenomenon is. People who aren't aware of the astronomy involved were kind of tuned into that. So it was, yeah, a little more low key, but yeah, it was a lot of information.
That's exciting. I think kind of events that draw people together are so
Yeah.
just bonding, and people remember
Well,
that.
yeah, yeah. A lot of the newscasters talked about that. They were out, ready to look at the eclipse, but they said the feeling here, the vibration here is really fun. People are out, families are out, neighborhoods are out all together, and they have this one thing they're looking for. And yeah, that is that feeling around any kind of phenomenon at this rate. One time I was in the States, and it was in September. And there was a big red moon. The September autumn moon was out. It wasn't an eclipse, but as the moon was rising, it was very exciting because extremely odd, extremely red. And I remember the park being full of people with their telescopes and so on. And again, it's an exciting phenomenon that kind of makes us relate to nature, first of all, and to our place in this galaxy of ours. And even in the solar system, even with our lunar system, it kind of plugs us back into what's real for us.
That's
It's
a
fun
really
like
good
that.
point. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, no, that's a great point. So many memorable eclipses. I'm thinking of some others that have been around here and several years ago, and there was a lunar eclipse. And anyway, just all of these eclipses are memorable. Like you said, they pull people together. They're astrological events. And I was wanting to talk to you about how eclipses affect us astrologically.
Astrologically, I have mixed feelings about that. I must say that this eclipse touched me particularly. Maybe it was just on account of the ambient excitement, but we want to remember that any solar eclipse, let's talk about that first, because I'm a big fan of the moon.
Right.
And the moon moving in between us here and the sun out there to such perfect. I mean, the
Right.
eclipse the eclipse shouldn't happen at all. It's a pure, some sort of, looks like an accident that the moon as it's moving in front of the sun is exactly the same size to our
Isn't
eyes.
that right?
How weird is that? How weird is that in all of the universe? I think there's a very deep plan here. But let me get back to my moon that's moving in between us and the sun. Now, here in the West, we're very solar powered. The sun represents our conscious nature, our willpower, our drive, get ahead, get it done, be active. Oof, be active. Please be active. The moon coming in between and with this perfect fit is literally overriding this conscious driven nature of ours and saying it's time to pay attention to the unconscious, what's happening on an instinctive level, on an intuitive level. It's time to let that other side of us, that reflective side, win the day. And I think the message there is what's the most important. I wrote it up on our site, Radiate Wellness, saying, listen to the message. Let your unconscious ideas come up to the surface finally, and you don't have to talk yourself into them or out of them. Just listen. And I think that's the beautiful part of it. Now, the lunar eclipse is just the opposite end of this energy. This is willful nature of the sun that's literally overriding our unconscious mind. And I like them less. I like them frankly less because, again, we're not allowed to just be, to just breathe and just understand. There's this overriding sense of needing to make order, to make some logic into the whole pattern. And I don't agree.
And for those of you listening, watching now, this eclipse commentary is on the Facebook group Radiate Wellness Community. So find that on Facebook. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can read Mary Jane's commentary on eclipses. So that is all very interesting. And then, of course, I had this dream last night of a total eclipse. So that makes me just wonder, okay, there's something going on there, right? And so, of course, what you talk about the precision of the moon blocking out the sun just precisely so. Yes, there's the ring of fire, but precisely so. How does that happen, and why? It
Yeah.
it boggles the mind. And not only to me, it boggles the mind, but it just sets us on fire with all of these possibilities. It's like, wow, it's just like your imagination just takes off, right?
For sure. And
No,
it's so personalized. All of a sudden we're talking about our moon doing this to our sun
yeah,
and our very, very personal and very intrinsic reactions to this. I don't know. I think it's very exciting on what kind of a esoteric, yes, but on a spiritual level. It seems as though there's some force that's in charge here. There's some force that has put in motion this precision, this chance, one in a skillion, that this kind of phenomenon should even be shown to us. I kind of like to think that anyway. I
yeah,
don't know,
it's crazy.
but it seems too precise to be an accident.
Yeah, too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence.
Right, exactly. That I don't believe in either,
No,
actually.
no, there are no coincidences. No, 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 no. And speaking of coincidence, I have a poetry book coming out and
Ah,
to be out by September 26th. And the
wow,
title of it is Eclipse,
lovely,
right? Because
lovely.
the eclipse of 2024 was a formative time for me. It was important to me. And anyway, so that's coming out too. Eclipses are, I don't know, it seems like once in a lifetime thing, although we have several.
Sure.
There's always an eclipse going on, whether it's partial or total,
But
but the total one
every 2 or 3 years, there's an eclipse going on somewhere.
some.
Now, this makes me want to talk for just a second because I don't know much about what's called mundane astrology. This is
Mm,
a look at astrology that talks about civilizations, about countries, about legal functions on a government level. And talks about organizations, revolutions, movements like that that are much more vast than our personal lives.
right.
The mundane astrologers like to see where this full eclipse is happening
Mm,
because it seems as though, and we'll keep our eyes open on movements in Spain and in Portugal, we'll keep our eyes open to what effect this perfect eclipse will have on the inner workings of these peoples, of these governments. That can get pretty interesting as well. The trick with that is that a lot of these eclipses, of course, happen precisely in the middle of the ocean or where there is absolutely nobody around but whales and the occasional dolphin. So we don't know much what's going on in their societies. But when it touches on the Earth, and on a particular country, a particular continent, well, I don't know. It's apparently pretty important.
that's absolutely right. And it does capture the imagination. So we are here to talk about your native sign of Virgo.
Right, right.
Virgo. Yes.
Yes.
So, which is, well, we are recording August 17th. So it is upon us very, very soon.
The evening of the 22nd of August in the States, you'll have the sun going into Virgo.
Wonderful. Okay. So, what do we have to look forward to in Virgo?
Well, the first days, that is to say, after the Ingress, the 22nd and 25th through there, the sky is looking pretty interesting in that the sun is going to be early on making some sort of awkward moves to Chiron and to my friend up here, Juno. This is interesting times for families to be getting reconstructed. I see in this context
Mm.
between Chiron and Juno with the sun, this notion of finding each other. I'm thinking offhand about old school friends who find each other, again after X number of years and sort of tying up knots again and getting back in contact. This kind of, oh, we've seen a lot of romances that get started after a class reunion or whatever, We're kind of in that neighborhood anyhow. And so the first part of this period, from the 22nd, I'm going to say through the 25th, looks pretty much devoted to that. At the same time, let's look at the big picture, though, because we've been apparently there's been a lot of talk about the famous basket formation that I've been talking about for all these months now.
Barbara's
That has the
basket.
name, the Barbo's basket.
Yes.
So somebody went digging around and found this very old, I mean, Andre Barbeau was working in Paris in 1920s and wrote a lot of very good, in fact, reference books and instruction books for astrologers. But he was one who adored these different graphic designs that I rather enjoy too. There's the kite, there's the big rectangle, this famous basket that was supposed to be doing some wondrous things for us. That as we talked about all these months ago, in fact, didn't seem to help out as far as creating a new order in the world. We'll see. I don't know, but I was kind of disappointed. The fact that this basket formation, that is to say, we've got three sextiles that are also connected by trines and the opposition that creates this sort of basket thing. And usually there's a planet on the bottom that it represents the handle of the basket. In this case, it was Jupiter. It was all happening in fire and air signs that only seemed, as close as I could tell, that only seemed to excite the sort of warring, overwhelming, aggressive power that was going on in the world, and that still is. And that multiple negotiations, multiple summit talks, multiple treaties signed haven't really accomplished anything to fix. So all told, I was a bit disappointed by this particular basket. It's rather coming dispersing now. The Grand Trine, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus is still functioning, but we don't have much of a handle anymore. Saturn and Jupiter have entered into a shift and have recreated a very nice trine, a very nice understanding angle that's still in fire signs, but that seem to be more apt to get involved in some logical conversation, into some logical equilibrium between wanting to and can't do. So we might have a period in these next, all month actually now, we might have a period where some order may be established in this dissipating Barbo's basket. We will have to hope so. The Jupiter and Pluto are still in opposition, creating this basket handle until the 31st of August. Yeah, we've got a very good moon and a very good day actually to use this energy. This pattern can be useful for fire and air signs, especially for taking forceful decisions, making assertive action, going out looking for what you need, getting proper cooperation around you, and creating the event essentially is going to be very useful for fire and air signs. I'll give you that. And there's some very good days in here, the 25th of August and the 23rd, the 30th of August. Also in September, we have the 4th, we have the 8th and 9th, the 12th, the 18th of September, and the 22nd of September before getting involved in Libra again. These are good days with the moon creating some proper angles that will be very useful. Yeah, so use it if that concerns you. Otherwise, you have to kind of wait your turn because the fire and the air people are still out there making a lot of noise and a lot of, well, hopefully creative decisions. There's some very good things going on at the same time with Jupiter that's in very close conjunction with Hygiea, the asteroid that seems to talk to us a lot about medical concerns, health in general, and so on. Both of these planets are in a very nice aspect to Saturn. And I think we're going to see some important medical breakthroughs, some new scientific facts coming out that are going to be useful for us, probably still under testing situations, testing patterns. But I think it's going to be an important month for some new news on the medical front. Possibly with antibiotics, new vaccines, we're going to see, in any case, some progress being made in these departments. Also, this is a very good time for medical workers for getting proper working conditions through negotiation. This could work well. It's important for hospital and clinic construction and renovation, anything that's going to touch on a growth pattern involving the medical industry. And I think this will be very good. It seems to hold true for humanitarian medicine, the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders. These very medical oriented organizations are going to get some help and are going to do some very active growth patterns through this month. I think it's going to be very important. So that's really the good stuff that can come out of this Barbo's basket, and we'll hope that it gets a little farther along in creating some sort of world peace for us. That would be a very good thing too. I'm getting so tired of having this wonderful news that doesn't go anywhere because we've got these various personalities that insist on throwing spanners in the works instead of letting time work on time. It's so crazy. Anyway.
Exactly. And now there's new concerns about North Korea. So,
At the same time that all this wonderful stuff is going on, I must say that Saturn and Neptune, that are still rather close together, are receiving through practically all month a square from Mars saying that there's a confusion of goals and what we're looking to accomplish through this wonderful energy that's going on around us. So we have to keep concentrating on what we're really after. The same is true with an uncomfortable aspect to Pluto that can't quite let go of the power image. And so this is going to create some serious slowdowns and in any kind of positive growth for peace, growth for you name it, anything good that we can pull out of this assertive action otherwise.
agreed. Now, on a personal level, what can we
Mm.
expect?
Well, I have to talk about this Mars for a minute because it's
Oh,
kind of bugging me. It's in a tight conjunction with Ceres. This is lasting for, yeah, a nice long time still. And they're both in again, this awkward aspect to Pluto. I'm thinking that through the month, we're going to see periods of uncomfortable mother-daughter issues that seem to turn around, probably a disaffection of the daughter's boyfriends or other friends that mother doesn't think are quite decent, that
oh,
aren't totally acceptable. So we're going to see a bit of this through the month. And I would say just stay calm, listen to each other's best arguments, and measure things out. I must say at the same time that these issues seem important tests to the various relationships. First of all, the mother-daughter relationships seems to come under fire. And also the daughter is going to have to look carefully at her choice of friends. So there's something for everyone in here. It's a test period in various lives of these players.
what do you mean test period?
I mean by that there seem to be on a karmic level, there are some arguments, some discussions, some disputes that are inevitable and that are absolutely necessary for a final understanding on everyone's part. Chiron is important in this thing, and Chiron is always throwing out little jibes that don't heal and that have to be looked at. There are certain elements in these relationships that have to be talked out, that have to be understood. And that's what I mean by a testing ground.
Okay, growing pains.
Yeah, essentially. Healing pains. Sometimes you have a sprain and it hurts. It hurts like hell 2 weeks after the accident because it's healing. It's that kind of discomfort.
Yeah, growth is uncomfortable.
For sure. You have to give up where you were and get involved in where you're going. And
That's
that's not always fun for everyone involved.
gets worse before it gets better. Now, as a mother of a daughter, of
Ah,
course, I sit up and notice these things. So very interesting.
well, we've got a monster collection of all the asteroids, my little friends that are out there in
Yay.
between Mars and Jupiter. There's a big collection with Saturn on top of them in Aries that is connected. Well, it's connected these days with the moon, but it won't be there forever. It's connected rather interestingly with the black moon, however. All of this to say that we're going to see some new plans, especially with Saturn. We're going to see some new plans for family confrontations. Again, we come back to this notion of having to talk out our relationships, having to talk out some kind of plan of family action. Maybe it's about work schedules, play schedules, school starting up again. Let's get everybody on an even keel. It doesn't look that easy to keep everybody happy because we have Venus opposite these asteroids until the 11th of September. And then Venus is going into, again, a sort of uncomfortable place with Neptune from the 11th to the 18th of September. So it's hard to get everybody happy. It's just going to be really hard to hash out all the family planning, the things that have to be dealt with on a group level. This looks kind of awkward through here. There's some very good days. There are the 21st and 22nd of August right away,
Okay.
the 25th of August, the 27th of August are very good for sitting down and let's say you'll be here and you'll be here, and everyone seems kind of like that. The 30th and 31st of August are supposed to be good, but Mars is raising his head and saying, I don't want to be there. I want to be here, and you have to move. And so the arguments are a little more noisy. Some very hard days as far as the moon is concerned, because the moon's going to go over all this activity on the 23rd and 4th of August, on the 2nd of September. And this is awkward because Mars is also square to Juno, the 1st of September. So maybe the parents involved or the lovers that are involved are not on a terribly even keel either about getting things set up like that. There's another somewhat complicated situation coming from Venus at the same time. She's going to be until the 6th of September. We have Venus that's at its maximum distance from the sun, that is to say, 45 degrees. That's as far as Venus can get from the sun. And she's going through Libra on top of everything, which has everything to do with equilibrium, with relationships, with finding an even keel, trying to keep everybody happy. She's already not happy fighting this out with the family members, and also is feeling as though she's out in the cold. Venus, that's so far from the sun, feels a sense of estrangement. You're just not in your place. You feel very lonely. You feel very solitary, misunderstood. And this is going to add to the discussions that are going on in these family situations with the asteroids. So please let the other guy talk.
Mm,
Express yourselves, because you're going to find out that you're not alone, in fact,
right.
even though at the same time you can feel as though no one's listening to you. You can give in to a sense of paranoia, a sense of abandonment. And this is not where it's at. Stay reasonable in your family confrontations, in your discussions, and things are absolutely going to get better and easier as we get into mid-September and the end of September and into Libra.
Mm.
So don't worry about this, but it's going to be awkward in keeping everybody happy.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mercury is working quite well with Jupiter. That's always nice to see. And is going to definitely be helping all the way along, actually, into mediations with signing of contracts, also having to deal with these family situations. So again, it's good maybe to have outside help. Have a friend of the family come in and say, yeah, but let's figure this out. You might want to call up someone to come and sort of arbitrate for you. I was talking about, again, Ceres that's in an uncomfortable place with Pluto. And this is classically the mother-daughter tension that
Mm.
will probably, with Ceres and with Mars, this is probably around a boyfriend that the mother doesn't approve of. Probably with a square from Neptune, this distaste may well be well founded. But again, you're going to have to talk this out carefully and know that this is a testing ground for all of these relationships.
Mm.
Hard day through there is the 25th of August. And then Mars will be square to Saturn, which also creates a tension as far as authority. So mom is there saying, "Oh, this guy," and the daughter is saying, "Oh, you always complain. You don't like any of my friends." And so there's a whole situation about listening to a parental authority or just good discussion coming from an older person that the younger person may not want to listen to. That's part of the game until the 9th of September, as I said. Then things will ease off. Not to worry. Not to worry. Mars is square to the same asteroid group, well, kind of all the time until the 29th of September. And there could be, again, sort of throwing gas on the flame, throwing fuel on the fire through the 12th, the 20th, and the 27th of September. This is
Mm.
difficult on a lot of levels for all kinds of legal decisions to be making. Also in mediation, this is a time when these particular days seem rather hard to keep on an even keel and avoid tensions that can get in the way, personal tension that can get in the way of logical dealings and discussions. So those are some dates that we have to look at. We have to look at. But I hope is on the way. Help is on the way. And the first part of this period looks a little easier than the middle. And then we get into a nice calm part as we approach Libra. So these are times that you'll want to use to get your projects done in a nice way. We can be assertive without being aggressive. And I think this is one of the messages that's maybe the most important through this month.
Yes, assertive without being aggressive.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah, that sounds great. Anything else that we need to be aware of?
Those are some important points, I think, to my mind. On a very personal and psychological level, I want to just underline this feeling of abandonment that happens when Venus is so far from the sun. You're not alone out there. Go look for help. Go look for someone to vent with. Go look for company and a shoulder to cry on if it comes to that. But you're certainly not alone through here, even on days when you can feel the most solitary. But yeah, and it's not a nice solitude that is involved with this particular distancing from Venus to the sun. It's a feeling of not being understood, and that can be silly but uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Very uncomfortable.
orienting and alienating. Right. I've noticed the times that feel the most hopeless or the most down are the times that you feel the least connected.
Absolutely. And we're
So
kind of into this, well, until mid-September. So be calm, look for help, look for friends.
this is always the name of the game. So we're beginning this transmission with the hope and joy surrounding an eclipse, and then ending this transmission with, hang in there, you're not alone, and, don't need to feel so alone.
No, 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 for
Right.
sure not.
Well, thank you so much for breaking it down. And in your home sign of Virgo, of course, you've got a birthday smack dab in the middle of this sign.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. Probably not much. I think I'll
Oh,
just try to keep a low profile.
oh, okay. Okay. No, you need to party. I know you. You're going to have a party. You're going to do
Probably.
something fun. I know you will.
Probably. Yeah, I'm certainly going to try.
Certainly going to try. Oh, wonderful. Then we will see each other again in Libra.
In Libra, indeed. Looking forward to it.